Hello and welcome to the Free Dominion pit. My name is Freeman Singirankabo, and thank you so very much for joining our broadcast today. Those of you joining us live, especially if you're joining us live from the social medias like platforms like Facebooks and YouTubes, welcome. We are so happy, so thrilled and excited to have you joining us today. That goes for the same of you who are joining us live from the network televisions as well as radio station. Welcome. We are super excited that all of you can find some time out of your busy schedule to come and join our conversation today. We are really super excited and very grateful for the opportunity to appear in front of you today. And it is for this reason that we also get to say that the conversation and the programs that we have here at Afro Dominion, we absolutely speak to you guys truthfully and boldly and with no apologies. And why? Because what we discuss with you are not only important to us, but we care so deeply about. And we can promise you that everything that we share, we do here, it's all in the spirit of truth, love, and trust. And these are the benchmarks by which we would love each and every one of you to hold us accountable, to measure both the validity and the truthfulness of what we are sharing with you, to see if you can find any added value out of everything that we are saying here, and anything that you find to be helpful, to be useful, to be of an added value to you, to your community, to your family, feel free to use it. But we will also hope that you find it within your heart to come and also participate and give us a hint to this such a long journey that we have embarked upon. And I also want to actually say that it is quite a humbling experience that we can actually find some time with so many of you helping us out to really move forward. In particular, I'd like to give a huge thanks and huge shout out to network televisions who are really helping us out. Not only are they putting their mouth where they're putting their money where their mouth is, but they're actually going step by step with everything that we are doing. So a huge thanks to HMG Network and affiliates for actually broadcasting this signal to the rest of the networks and all affiliates picking up this signal and redistributing it to either television stations or radio station, even you, the social media viewers and listeners. So we are really excited. We are really excited for this opportunity to serve you and to be here and to speak on behalf of our voiceless brothers and sisters all over. And with that in mind, guys, I also want to say a huge welcome to those of you. Come and join us during our conversation here today. We expect that you become participants. We would also ask that you do share this conversation, whether you're on a social media or network televisions. Share this content with the rest of your brothers and sisters. I cannot explain to you how important it is that you actually get to understand the impact of you having a microphone and speak on your own behalf of your own family members, on behalf of your community, on behalf of your village, and on behalf of your nation. This is not something that we used to have. This is not something that we used to value. But today we understand what's at stake. When you do not speak up, or when you do not speak out, there is an impact that goes beyond you personally, that goes beyond your family, your community, even your nation. Some nation completely disappears off the map because its sons and daughters have refused or have neglected to speak up and speaking out. So today is not one of those seasons where we're just going to be bystanders and let things happen and we are just watching. We're not those kind of people. We don't let things happen. We happen to things. That's how we roll here at our Free Dominion. And with that in mind, guys, I also want to encourage each and every one of you to actually be your own selves. Become who you are. Do not be ashamed of who you are. Do not be ashamed of your families, of your backgrounds. However it is, however nice, however horrible it may be, it is still you. It is still your background. It is still you in history making. And with that in mind, guys, I want to say that I'm super excited for this opportunity to appear with you today again on Wednesdays as we continue our journey, as we continue to tell our own story, and as we continue to share with each and every one of you. I would not start this conversation without giving you all a huge welcome, and without also saying we recognize that not every single one of you fully understands why we're here, why we are appearing. We are not just running time. We are not just, killing your time for the sake of doing it. We truly believe in what we're doing. We make the time for it. We sacrifice for it. This is life for us. This is life. And it is for these reasons I would start by letting you know what is Afri Dominion and what is Afri Dominion Show. Because once you understand that, then absolutely we know that whether you are with us or not with us, you're just not somewhere you're not supposed to be. We would hope that each and every one of you who's going to catch this program, or who will catch it, or who's joining the program live, you get to really understand why we're here. Because we won't stop as far as we are concerned here. But we would love to have all of you as partners in this amazing journey, so we can write history together, so we can actually speak on behalf of our own brothers and sisters together. And with that in mind, what is Afri Dominion? Afri Dominion, it's an idea that inspires, advocates, encourages, even help you, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, take the full dominion of Africa and African resources, one nation at a time, for the interest of African people, first and foremost, and the rest of the world afterwards. And what about the Afri Dominion Show? The Afri Dominion Show, it's a program, as you can see, that actually encourages, it inspires, it advocates, it encourages, and it even helps you, again, to take back the full dominion of Africa and African resource by you, the sons, daughters, and African descendants, all in the interest of the African people, first and foremost, and the rest of the folks globally. Why do we actually start from there? We start from there so that there isn't any misunderstanding, there isn't any speculation as to what we are. We want to let you know what we are, who we are, so that there is no ambiguity as to what's going on here. Secondly, it is very important that you know whether this is for you or not. We don't want to waste anybody's time, the same way we would not want our time to be wasted by nobody. So that's why we come up front, up in the open, up on the scale, on the public scale, so that you can actually measure, you can actually get to see where we are, up in the open, but also offline. It's very crucial, it's very important that when we roll like that, none of you is confused as to what it is that we are doing here. Very, very, very crucial. And with that in mind, for those of you who also want to get in touch with us, I want to make sure that they also know how to get in touch with us, because if you know how to get in touch with us, if you do your own due diligence, then all is going to be well. And we believe that everything we do here and everything we do off cameras, it all has to be transparent. There shouldn't be any ambiguity as to what's going on here or what's going on there. Anytime those ambiguities are there, that means either something is wrong on our end or something is off on your end. And I believe that together we can actually ensure that all of us, we are on the same chord, on the same agreement. So how do you get in touch with us? The first and foremost great ways to get in touch with us, it's going through our website. And that website is www.afridominion.com. www.afridominion.com. Our main email is info@afridominion.com. info@afridominion.com. On the website, you will find that we have contact information, either telephone, both the mobile phones with SMS and the main line, the landline that we have. All of that, it's there. We have an email, like I said. Those of you should be looking at it from right underneath there. We also have social media handlers, as well as some of the other platforms that you can find us specifically. We have one group that you will find there on the website where all of us who are going through this program, who are sharing this journey, can be found. It would be a pleasure for me to invite you through the group so that you can actually meet other like minds. Get to know, get to be involved in what's happening and what's being done by your brothers and sisters, especially if it is something that you believe in, that you subscribe in. Come and give us, lend us a hand. You cannot just say, do me, do me, do me, do me. At some point you have to say, here it is, here it is, here it is. Let me help you, let me help you, let me help you. Don't you ever ask, what can your country do for you? But say or offer, what can I do for you as my country? Those are not my words, by the way. I just borrowed them from some of those wise people from back in the 60s. So again, make sure that you get in touch with us. Make sure that if this program is something that you actually see of an added value, also be an added value to the program. Be an added value to another brother and sister. Share with them the content, share with them the program, invite them to come through. Tell them, hey, there is an opportunity for you to participate in something that you've been wanting to do. There are some brothers and sisters out here who are more than willing to come and link with you, to come in and work with you in whatever endeavors that you are going after. So coming right back to the program, so Afri Dominion Show, we want to make sure that we absolutely inspire each and every one of you to return back to your true selves, to regain back your true identity. You are kings and queens of Africa. Take back the leadership of your nations. Take back the leadership of your resources, natural resources, and all of that. And be responsible, be accountable to everything and anything that has to do with that. That's what we are about, and that's what we do, not just in words. We are literally also putting that in practice. So join us, that's all I can say, and make sure that you absolutely do your very best, because you only have one life to live, only one. And beyond that, who knows? So going back to the program, we have our program starts from 12 p.m. to 1:30 Eastern Standard Time or Washington, D.C. time. So if you want to catch us live, you got to be in between 12 to 1:30. Beyond that, we are on demand, but we also are both on demand on radio stations, but also online. You can find our contents through our social media handlers or pages. We don't delete the contents. Not only that, this content is free, meaning you don't have to invest any amount of money to get through the content. Those of you who are watching on cable, unfortunately, you got to pay a fee to those cable companies. So that's beyond us. But we just want to make sure that the content comes to you, directly to you, be it in your living room or on your mobile phone. Either way, as long as it's able to get through its destination, we are super excited and very humble for the opportunity to serve you. So on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and Friday, we have 5 different themes, which corresponds to the days that we broadcast. We broadcast Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Every theme has its own program or programs that are engulfed in it. So those 5 themes are not the only themes that we will ever touch, but so far those are the only themes that we have decided to literally have the rest of the program under. So what we got going on Mondays. Mondays we talk about the eradication of African refugees and African stateless person. What is that exactly? We have our brothers and sisters who have been pushed out of their homelands. They have been pushed out from their own inheritance. They've become homeless, both inside and outside of Africa. They've become undocumented sons and daughters of Africa. Worst part of it, they are undocumented in Africa and outside of Africa. The life of undocumented people, it's the worst kind of a life. When you are undocumented, there's so much that you cannot do. From the legal standpoint, you have zero rights. People can literally do anything and anything to you and at your family or whoever it is that you are with, and you cannot claim it anyway. As an undocumented individual, it is difficult for you to be helped by any government, any organizations. There are very few exceptions where some of these organizations do not care your status. They will help you anyway because that's what they do. But for the rest of the organizations, they are super picky. They want to make sure that you are who you say you are. They want to make sure that you're not harmful to them or to the rest of the people. So you get the drill. So we want to make sure that we seek out all of you brothers and sisters from Africa. Anywhere you are, be it in Africa or outside of Africa, we get in touch with you, especially if you're in that predicament. And we work with you to get out of that situation. That's as simple as it is. And we want to make sure that that situation actually gets to be eradicated. On Tuesdays, we talk about the Constitution, law and policy review and implementation. And here again, we are explicitly and exclusively talking about African Constitution laws and reviews. African nations. What type of policies, what type of local laws and constitution do you have? Is it all in the interest of African people, or it has nothing to do with them? So we get an opportunity to scrutinize and to actually advocate for what works and get rid of what doesn't work, one way or the other. Until you get to be in charge, you really are at a huge disadvantage. And we want to make sure that we are in charge. We make no apologies about it at all. On Wednesdays, we get to talk about our testimony, history telling, and writing. I love Wednesdays because we get to speak straight from our hearts. We get to talk about us, our families. We get to write our own history without having to wait for those huge institutions to do that on our behalf. Why can't you not do it yourself? What's missing? So be a part of that as well. On Thursdays, we get to talk about the spirit of dominion. What is dominion? Dominion entails that you will get to actually become responsible for you, yourselves, and everything about you. You get to be responsible for your nation. You get to be responsible for the resources of which have been entrusted to you, your family, your community, and your nations. You get to become accountable. You get to be the one managing those resources. You get to be the one protecting the resources. You get to be the one deciding what to do with those resources. So you basically get to do it all with no excuse as to why this or that cannot be done, because you're in charge after all. On Fridays, we get to talk about the current events and how it affects African people. There's so much going on. But not all that is going on, it's known. Oftentimes, you only hear of the things that fall off the mainstream media. Here, we don't necessarily follow what's on the mainstream media. While we may go there, but that's not the only thing we do. We could bring you a story or some of the happenings from our very remote villages. But as long as we find it relevant or helpful to the rest of our communities, to the rest of you brothers and sisters, we bring it to you. We are fully responsible for this broadcast. We are fully responsible for what we do, how we do it, when we do it. So when we bring you any programming, it is because we actually took some time to be a part of it. And we've decided that, hey, this is helpful for us, and let's share it. So welcome to all those of you. Be a part of it and apologize to no one. Literally, this is our season, this is our time. Gone are the days where we're just going to say, this isn't being done because. No. Take charge. Take charge. Do what you got to do. So with that in mind, today we are Wednesday. Like I say, it's a Wednesday testimony time, history telling and writing. So on today's program, I want to ask you, can you fault history for forgetting about you when you yourself have not stood up for yourself? Let me repeat it. Can you fault history for forgetting about you when you have not stood up for yourself? That's what we want to talk about today. And I also would just point out or throw in a few more questions. Do you literally understand the value of speaking out? Do you really understand the value of speaking out? Because if you did, there are a lot of things that we will be seeing today, not only in great mass, but also constantly. What do you have to lose anyway by telling your story? By protecting your story, your family story? What do you have to lose? And how do you make sure that history doesn't forget about you? Those are some of the questions that I really would like to leave with you and for you to marinate on. But last but not the least, what do you have to do? What is your role in all of this? Why am I bringing this up today? I mean, every day we got a reason why we share with you what we do. But recently we were having a conversation with some friends, and they were so angry that our history has been so misrepresented. We literally talked about it for quite some time, and you could see the anger. You could see this is so unjust. But then I sat down and I was like, okay, personally I'm from Rwanda. So imagine in 1990s, when I was just a little boy, in the middle of the war, Rwanda and Rwandan people have never taken the liberty to speak on their own behalf. Especially that one can say that they didn't have the means. Fine. But today, we're talking about 32 years later, close to 32 years later. The history of Rwandan and Rwandan people is continuously being told mostly by the outsiders, mostly by the foreigners, mostly by those who had the means, who may have recorded the event as it has happened. But then I get to wonder, what happens to the rest of the millions of Rwandan who actually believe the story? We don't speak up. And then we get to complain when history, it's misrepresenting us. So can you fault the history for misrepresenting you when you have not done your due diligence to ensure that it doesn't? So what am I saying? Right now, there's not a single Rwandan family, not a single Rwandan family that has not lost a person as a result of the war that started in 1990, October 1st, 1990, and claimed many lives, and then in 1994 turned into genocide. There is not a single Rwandan family that has not lost a person. Imagine, not a single Rwandan family that has not lost a person. Some have completely been wiped out. And others, they have lost so many family members. Others, some, but collectively, we all have lived through those eras. And just so that you know, the world focuses on 1994, but they barely tell you pre-1994 and post-1994. What am I saying? From October 1st, 1990 to April 6, 1994, Rwanda was in the middle of a war. And in the middle of the war, they are actually using bullets. And I'm not being ridiculous. I want you guys to know, especially those of you who have never been in a war. When you see a movie where people are killing each other, you are so safe that you can actually endure watching somebody else getting killed for an hour and a half, 2 hours. You laugh about it, you're pretty excited about it, you even want to be a participant in it because it's a movie. But for someone who's actually in real life being killed, not just by a gun, by machetes, by any weapons of mass destructions that are currently being used on any terrain of wars, it's not funny to those people. In fact, 1 hour in the middle of a war zone, 1 hour in the middle of a war zone feels like eternity from the experience. 1 hour in the middle of a war zone, meaning when you're actually literally hearing bullets flying over you, when you're ducking, if you're lucky, in a trench hole. If you are unlucky some way, you're more susceptible to guns and bombs falling next to you and just terminating you. Living for 1 hour in the middle of that, it's a hell. Ask soldiers who have gone to Iraq, to Kuwait, to Afghanistan, to Mozambique, to the DRC, Democratic Republic of the Congo, to Malawi, to Angola, to West Africa, to Sudan, to Ethiopia, to Eritrea. It's not funny being in the middle of war. It is not funny at all. And also in the middle of the war, the real war, people are actually dying for real. Unlike in the movie where, you pretend to be dead. Then after whatever time they're shooting that scene, you also go back to being you. In real life, you are permanently dead. You don't wake up. So, those of you who have survived wars, especially those of you brothers and sisters in whatever respective countries that you come from, you know what it is to go through a war zone, a war. You know what it is to lose your loved one in the open when you can witness them taking their very last breath. You know what it is to lose a neighbor and literally seeing them breathing their own, the very last breath on this earth. That itself creates PTSD, post-traumatic disorder syndrome. That is an image that cannot leave you permanently. So imagine all those of you, millions and millions, brothers and sisters. And here I would just go ahead and throw in a couple millions Rwandese people. For the past 32 years, you've gone through trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. And you've been so silent about it. And someone goes and meet a courageous Westerners, European, Asian, and they come in, hey, wow, what has happened to you? You tell them your story and they're like, you know what? We can make a movie out of this. And then you get a cold feet. You become afraid, you don't want to talk, and you absolutely just not willing to do anything. But because they have actually gotten the very first story from you, they will go and maybe just manipulate it a little bit, glamorize it a little bit, so that it can feel like a movie. There are a lot of movies that have been written depicting what has happened in Rwanda. but the kick out of it. Those of you who got to watch some of those movies, those of you were really excited, and those of you were really disgusted by how the story has been foretold. And those of you who were super angry that there was misrepresentation, I don't understand why you feel that way. When you refuse to participate in something that is about you, someone else takes the courage and do whatever it is that they can do that you haven't been able to do. What gives you the audacity to come and say, this is wrong? For 32 years, there are families that have gone through the most horrific life experience on planet Earth. They're still standing. They pretend like nothing has happened. They don't even want to talk about it. They have not met a shrink. They have not met a psychiatrist. They have not met someone who could even say, I am so sorry for what you have gone through. 32 years later. Can you imagine that type of atomic bomb that's like ticking? Imagine what happens when you cross that person in the wrong way. When all of a sudden that patience, when all of a sudden the silence breaks loose out of nowhere, when they just burst out. You cannot even conceptualize what they can do. Imagine a pressure cooker that's been completely sealed for 32 years and the fire is right on it. That kind of fire creates the pressure stronger than an atomic bomb. It could be in a little teeny pot, but that pressure itself not only is very destructive, but it's uncontrollable. So you brothers and sisters all over Africa who've been in warfares for 30 plus years, and you've been wounded physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and you have not sought help. Whatever help available, you have not sought it. I really want to urge you to please seek out some help. You've got demons that you walk with every single day. Those demons cannot help you live a normal life with your family, loved ones, friends, co-workers, etc. For those of you who were children like I was a child, today we have some memories that we literally have like pushed so far in. They just don't want nobody to bring them out. But because of the situation now you are living, sometimes those memories, they find themselves in front of you and you don't know what to do. You've never been trained, you've never been counseled, you've never been helped on how to manage those crazy memories. Or oftentimes, you may fall on a movie, a book, a story of something you know so well that it is and how it went down. And then you have a conflict from the real story that has taken place to the glamorized story, or to the exaggerated story, or to the completely fabricated story. I've seen so many of those kind of stories. Plenty of them. And I got to a point I was like, enough is enough. I was like, no, this just can't be. This just can't be. I'll give you a perfect example. Can you imagine your loved one being raped and you witness that? And then your neighbor also sees that. However, when they're telling you a story, they explicitly miss out some details. They make sure to mention that is you, that is your loved one. However, they miss out some of the detail, the most crucial details. Why? Because either they have sold that story to someone, or they may be implicated one way or the other. And then you get to see that story being told. And you know that's your story. And then you burst out. Because first and foremost, it's a fabricated story or it's an incomplete story. Then you're angry of that someone who have told that story. But you yourself have not come forward to tell the story in its entirety. Brothers and sisters, that is one of the things we are going through today. And that is one of the biggest slavery, I should say modern slavery, that we ourselves have held into. We've kept ourselves into the slavery of our own history. Other people want us to be slaves in this way, that way, but even ourselves, we're participating into that. Until you liberate your mind, until you free your mind from all kinds of things that has happened to you, all kinds of trauma that has happened to you, until you release all that you have been storing for 30 plus years, 40 plus years, even less than that. You are a slave to a history that not only you're not claiming that is yours, but that it could be tormenting you. You have an unresolved history that you have just placed in a temporary place, but that temporary place is so turbulent that at any given time it can take you out and everything around you. And it is for this reason that I am urging you, take some time and tell your own story, guys. Your own way, however you want to tell it, however much details that you want to share. It is all good and it is all well for you, for your family, and everything that you stand for. I'll be truthful to you guys. Since 2000, I've been so involved in anything related to Rwanda, especially telling the stories and figuring out the information, digging the information, all of that. I've been doing that. However, when it came to me personally, when it came to my family story, I was I was not going there at all. I did not want to touch it. Why? Because when it comes to your own story, it's like a fresh wound. Not only that, you also have family members who do not feel the same courage, who do not share the same virtues as you to help tell your story. So now, how do you tell a story to your own family when not every family member wants to tell the story? I am my own individual. I have come to learn. I can tell my own story without involving my loved ones. I can tell my own story the way I know it in my head and free myself physically, emotionally, and spiritually. It's a debt to not tell your own story and be angry at someone else telling it, however it is they got to figure out your own story. You have a debt to society, and sometimes you have a debt to somebody else because your story might be intertwined with their story, and you can only be the only one who can voucher what they have gone through because you will be actually forced to tell the full story. So we have so many families today that are suffering that cannot be healed because you have refused to speak up for 30 plus years. You have many family, many loved ones who have been wiped. And you have not done your due diligence to bring them back and get them written in the books of our history. And that is why we have brought this day. Wednesday it is for you and the unknown, brothers and sisters, who owe it to history to be recognized. It's literally an obligation. That's how I feel. It is an obligation. My story, while I might be so stingy about it, but it's so intertwined with my neighbors and everybody whom we were passing the same story, the same history during that time frame. Give you an example. In 1994, when we were fleeing in the middle of the war, when we witnessed people getting killed right in front of us, be it by machetes or guns. Some of those we knew, others we didn't know them. But your memory is so sharp. And so when you go through trauma, that trauma is so vivid, it is impossible to forget about it. Again, I gave you an actual example. The very first time I've seen someone getting killed, as a kid, just a small child, I remember it just like it happens like a second ago. I remember every detail that has happened. Now, I got to tell this story in my native language, which is Kinyarwanda. That individual who was killed, his family has never got to know what had happened, like the literal juicy detail. Myself, my family members, and two other families, all of us, we witnessed that literally happening like in 10 feet away, 10, 12 feet away. We witnessed that individual taking their last breath. But because we were threatened not to say anything, I shut up for 20 plus years. I didn't bother it. For 28 years, I was quiet about it. In 2018, I wrote a book, and I wrote that particular scene in the book. I cannot tell you how I felt so liberated of this secret that I've been just walking with, that I've been holding for 28 years. I felt so free just speaking out. Imagine I got threatened 28 years back. Right now it will be what? Today is 2022, 32 years ago. I was threatened, we were threatened that you say something, you get in trouble. Everybody was there. And of course, our parents, parents are like, hey, do not mention. Like that. So now as a kid, you sort of like let it be. But then as you grow up, you got this thing inside of you that is not okay, that you cannot talk about. And worst part of it, your friends, your neighbors, their family members, you cannot share with them something that they are asking what has happened to our loved ones. And you know it. Can you imagine how selfish you have to be for you to refuse to tell someone something so important so that they may have closure? So when I had the courage to share, I cannot tell you how it felt so good, guys. It felt so good to release the monkey. To literally release that monkey. So, you brothers and sisters all over, I know you've gone through things, especially those of you who have been in wars. You've gone through so much, most of which you can't even talk about because not only is traumatic, but also it's like reopening that wound on the other side. But also you may have been threatened as well. There's so many reasons why you have not spoken up. But I plead with you, I am pleading with you guys. Find the courage to speak up for yourselves. History is going to forget about you if you do not leave that marker before you depart. There are some things that is up to you. There are some decisions that you yourself are going to have to make, whether you like them or not. Now, if it's a decision that involves other people, and you choose to be selfish, you choose to be silent, you choose not to do anything about it, you would have also decided for those other individuals who would have benefited from you speaking up. Today we have so many families that have perished permanently because I'm holding a story, you're holding a story, and of course the perpetrators have made sure that they don't say nothing. May have threatened some of you not to say anything, but until you break free, you are forever enslaved by that guilt of not speaking up. You are forever enslaved from writing the history of that family, that loved one, especially if they have completely been wiped. Today we have so many survivors. Today we have so many families still existing that can actually explain every single thing that has happened in Rwanda from October 1st, 1990 up to today. But for many various reasons, they do not come forward. And that story is left to the satellites that are owned by third-party persons. Satellites that are owned by the same people who have caused the wars. Satellites that are owned by radio stations, television networks, and so on. Images, videos that can explicitly tell your story, but they are selling that image to you. Imagine how unfair it is for you to know that you are innocent of a crime. Someone has recorded that crime, but they are actually asking you money for them to release that footage that can vindicate you. Such is a story as Rwandese people are living today in 2022. The entire world, the entire planet has a history of Rwanda that is so erroneous, that is far from being accurate, that is prearranged for the consumption of all of you out there. And none of us, Rwandese people, who have actually lived the story, especially still alive, have the audacity, the courage to speak up and set the record straight. Now, if someone gives you bogus information for 32 plus years, and they completely are okay with it, and you are withholding accurate information for 32 years, and you are afraid, you are, for whatever reason, not willing to say it, not willing to say the story, not willing to set the record straight, how do you actually vindicate yourselves? How do you reclaim your own humanity? How do you speak on behalf of your family and those who have perished? That is an issue that is going to remain even after all of us are long gone. So we have come to realize, personally I've realized that, you know what, I only got one life to live on this planet. With or without you being a part of it, there are certain things that are going to happen and have no control over it. One of those things that's going to happen, and it has happened also. When I was born, I had absolutely nothing to do with it. I never chose to come here on planet Earth. And when I leave, I have no choice in when I'm leaving. Literally, my birthday and my death day, I have zero control over it. And neither do you. I find myself here on planet Earth just like you have. And from my birth to my death, everything that I do, it's up to me. The decisions that I take and the ones that I fail to take, all those are going to have implication and consequences to every single person who's interacting with me and who is in my vicinity. And when it comes to our nations, when it comes to our planet, when it comes to our continent, specifically Africa, my information as little as it can be, plus your information as little as it can be, are very crucial to realigning ourselves, to going back in the right position in order for us to take that dominion back, in order for us to take the responsibility back, in order for us to self-govern again, in order for us to honor our loved ones, those who have long gone, perished, and those whom we have to rewrite anew from our history books. So, brothers and sisters, it is important that you do not blaming on the perpetrator themselves, whatever it is you're doing or failing to do, knowingly that you should do that anyway, but you are either too afraid or too coward to do anything about it. It is also a disservice to you, your family members, to those of you who are part of that, whatever the secret or whatever you don't want to share, but also history itself will be cheated out to those who would have known the truth and nothing but the truth of what has happened during your season, during your time. And it is for this reason that every Wednesdays we have literally dedicated our time to tell as many stories as we can tell, to write as many stories as we can write, to preserve as many stories as we can preserve for the benefit of the entire continent, for the benefit of our nations, for the benefit of your villages, your communities, your family, and yourself and I. That's as crucial as it is, guys. So it's imperative that not only do I do what I have to do, but also what I'm failing to do has impact that goes to the extent that it's going to affect the entire continent. Today I understand that. And then another thing, what do you have to lose? Remember, when you were born, you had nothing to do with it. It doesn't help to be angry, to be mad, to laugh, to cuss at somebody. It's pointless. When you die, where not go? Doesn't matter whether I'm upset, whether I'm angry, whether I have this and that, it does not matter. When it's my time to go, I will go. Literally. So, whether you go willingly or unwillingly, you have to go. So why won't you do yourself a favor? And why won't you take your responsibility and leave a marker and leave a piece of history of you, of your loved ones, of those who were in your vicinity, especially if they are already departed, and be the beacon and be the truth that has yet been told about them? Or should I say become the truth, because you are holding it. I know I cannot convince you. That's something that is so personal. You're going to have to do it yourself. But I plead with you that today there are millions and millions of families that are being called genocidaires, that are being executed, that are being persecuted, both from within the country, from outside of the continent, and even inside of the continent. Why are these families being persecuted wrongfully? And we are there, you are there, and we are not speaking up. What happens when the same thing comes around and then it finds you, it finds me? Imagine, guys, what's happening. There's nothing worse than convicting someone who's innocent, knowingly that they are innocent, and you don't do nothing about it, especially when you know that they are innocent. Today, some people have stronger, tough, hardcore hearts. Way more stronger than rocks. That they are unwilling to do the right thing. It could be out of hate. It could be out of something, I don't know. But please don't be one of those kind of people. You're failing to do what is right, tomorrow you'll be gone. When you go, there's not amount of apologies that you can make to that someone that you didn't get a chance to say something that you should have said. You might even say it doesn't matter. I'm going anyway, so who cares? You could also take it like that. Because I know many people have taken it like that and they still have left without setting the record straight. But what good does it do when you do wrong to other people and you still go anywhere? I mean, what kind of world are we living in today? So I'm asking you guys to be open, be responsible, see yourselves past your own interest. We want to reclaim our true identities. We want to take back the charge of Africa, the charge of our nations, our respective nations. We want to free ourselves from slavery. We cannot do any of those things if we are not properly positioned. If all of us aren't doing what we are supposed to be doing. You may be wondering, what am I supposed to be doing? Blah, 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 blah. But you know when you are in the right position and when you're not. It is something that is coded inside of you. If you're living a lie and you ignore that lie, it's a choice. It's not ignorance. So let's do as right as a people. Let's speak up. Today there are many millions of families that could use your testimony. That could literally use your testimony. But they cannot because they cannot convince you to speak up. Some of you might say, well, I have never spoken publicly. Well, I'm afraid that I may lose my job. I'm afraid that my family may be the target, the next target. I'm afraid that I may lose my citizenship here. I'm afraid that I may lose that over there. I'm afraid that my status might change. Whatever the case. What you're holding is bigger than your status. What you're holding is bigger than you just as an individual. And until you are in that pickle where you literally need someone to come through for you, you cannot comprehend the necessity for you to really free that other family that isn't able to actually reach out to you directly and say, would you please do this thing for me? Would you please do this thing for our families? Today we live with murderers, walking free, running around, even committing more crimes because they could not be put to jail because there wasn't anybody to actually witness, to be a witness of what they have done. And that's why I told you that today the entire world, and listen to me carefully, today the entire world is living a liar as to what has happened in Rwanda. Because the mastermind, the murderers, haven't been able to be taken to court. They haven't faced justice. They're walking free. They're holding the keys to that microphone. They're holding the keys to that camera. They're holding the keys to that satellite. that actually has recorded everything that you are now willing to share with the rest of the world so that that family could be vindicated after 30, 40 plus years. Imagine that. And an innocent person goes to jail, or many millions of people are riding to jail from crimes that they did not commit, when the true perpetrator, when the true criminals are walking free in business suits, in beautiful homes, beautiful condos, beautiful buildings, even holding positions in various governments all across the globe. Just think about how sickening that is. How hypocritical that is. You know it, I know it. But between you and I, one of us is bold enough to speak up, another is like, that's not my business. Let me just let it be. It'll sort out by itself in its own time. So guys, I really want to tell you, whether you do it or not, Mother Nature has a funny way to actually equalize everything. But one thing that I've also realized, when you fail to do what is right, you also become the casualty of that same thing you're failing to participate in. Today, I know quite a few people from Rwanda who have actually witnessed horrible things happening. And they were reached out to testify, but they have refused. Some took some money, others, they were afraid. And guess what? In turn, their time came up when some fabrication lies were made up on their behalf. They begged some other people to speak on their behalf. And nobody came through for them, even though they were innocent. Some of them are in jail today in Rwanda. Some of them were given by these nations that we're living in. They were handed by these nations because that conspiracy was matured. And they took that rap, knowingly that they were innocent about it. They're still in jail, riding in today. We know it. Imagine, how does that affect that individual? How does that affect that family? But the worst part of it, what they failed to do when the opportunity was there, consequently, they found themselves in the same predicament. And I literally wonder today if it's fair that some of us, we have to learn from the experience instead of learning from afar. What am I saying? If you tell me that these eggs are rotten because you cracked one of the eggs and you can see that it's rotten and it stinks, should I have to go and crack another egg for me to actually take your word for it? At what point do you choose to actually trust what someone else is sharing with you, is telling you, and don't move any further from there? At what point do you come through and be that information provider and speak the truth and nothing but the truth? We're suffering from that today, brothers and sisters. And until all of us are properly positioned, we all paying some penalties from some of the things we have failed to do, or some of the things that you may have failed to do, and collectively we are paying the penalty. When a country is condemned, even the baby who is 1 minute old gets to be condemned. The baby who's one hour old, 1 day old, the baby who is 1 year, 10 years old, is also condemned. It doesn't matter whether you're innocent or not. When a nation is condemned, as long as you are part of that nation, you are also scooped. Please understand what I'm saying here. You might think that it's none of your business to help your brothers and sisters. But I plead with you and I submit to you, whether you are outside of your native land, your homeland, really far away, well established, there's something that you not just can easily get out, regardless of how far you are. And because that's just the nature, that's the way it is. There's a necessity, there's a need for us to be truthful, to know what is our position at any given time. If you have information, if you have testimony, if you have crucial, sensitive information that can help this family, that family, that family there, why must you get paid to vindicate another family when it could very well be you tomorrow or the next hour? Why would you be happy to see a family perishing when you could do something about it as brothers and sisters? That's a dilemma that we are living today. We are living the consequences of what has happened in 1990, 1991, 1992, 1993, 1994, even past 1994. The world is also living the consequences. It is not just us. And these consequences are going to be experienced for centuries to come. So, while you're still thinking that it doesn't matter, you have nothing to do with it, so therefore it's none of your business. It is every business of yours, whether you choose it or not. And that's why I come humbly and tell you, please do what you gotta do. So how do you exactly make sure that history does not forget about you, does not forget about your family, does not forget about your neighbor, or that someone that you do not know, that you have been recording their own history? If I witness something happening to you, though you didn't ask me to witness it, nature made it so that I actually am a witness. If I choose to ignore it, while it could have helped you, I have a debt to you, whether I acknowledge it or not. So today we owe so many people, especially those of us who have gone through wars in our own respective countries. And we've moved on beyond our borders in the places where we feel secured. And because of that, we have a sense of not my business anymore. I almost died, so I'm somewhere that I'm safe right now. I do not need to bother this beacon. I gotta do me and do me, myself, and I, and that's it. What a selfish way to live. There was a time, early 2000, when I was so disgusted. I was like, man, I'm so tired of just hearing even a word Rwanda. Because every time I would hear of the word Rwanda, it would be like, are you a Hutu or Tutsi? Kigali, Butare, something. And I'll be honest, some of them were so ignorant and very innocently asking, but it was so annoying. And then on one side, you get prejudged if you say you are a Hutu. You automatically become like an eggshell, like a little something so fragile if you say you are Tutsi. Never mind whether the person knows you, knows your history, knows your background, none of that. That's how we've been judged for these past 20-something years. I can only imagine Germans. Are you a Nazi or not? Like, can you meet a German and be like, hey, by the way, are you a Nazi or not? Even when a German hears of that, they're like, whoa, what the hell? That was back in 1940s and all of that. But if you're so stuck on that, and if you're so adamant about that, and so ignorantly seeing that individual as a Nazi or not a Nazi, you're actually even stripping off their own humanity. Tribes, whatever tribe that you are, has nothing to do with your actions, what you do. If I do wrong as Freeman, you cannot attribute to my whole race. My wrongdoings should never be attributed to a race. However, when we want to destroy races, you can take one person's wrongdoing and just give it to them. That's what happened to Rwanda. That is still happening today. And guess what? The world is openly participating in it every single day. They've participated into that before it happened, during the time it happened, even after it has happened. The kicker and the most unforgivable part, we know it today, guys. Very few of us are doing something about it, and others are still ignorant about it. Why would you know that someone has done you wrong and you do nothing about it? I mean, where is the logic? Where is the logic? I'm asking you all. So, going back to what I had asked you, can you fault history for forgetting you when you yourself have not stood up for you, your family, your community? None of that. Can you fault it for not remembering you? How can you reclaim who you are if you are unwilling to position yourself and put yourself in an environment where you can actually have the means to do that? I always give an example, and I'm not trying to be funny, but I'll give an example to you guys as well. Today, if a woman wants to have a child, she cannot just go and pray, I want to have a child, I want to have a child. Please give me a child, guy. Please give me a child. You can pray until kingdom come. If you want to have a child and you do not go and found a male, have an intercourse with him. And not only you've got to have to do those two things, but you also have to be ovulating. There's some prerequisite to you having a child. You just cannot pray out about having a child and you just stay in your own little cocoon and that child just comes in mysteriously. The natural law says there is prerequisite for you to have a child. Something you need not pray about. Something that is automatic as long as you satisfy the prerequisite. What is the prerequisite for you taking back what is rightfully yours? What is the prerequisite for you knowing who you are, where you're going? What is the prerequisite for you becoming finally free? For you completely taking back your kingship of Africa and African resources? These are the things you personally have to ask yourselves. Because every single one of us, we have to be rightly positioned in order for that which you are asking, that which you are expecting to come through. If I want water and there's a faucet, and if I don't go there, if I don't have a cup, for example, something, and I go and I put it under that faucet, that water is ready to come, but I'm not ready to receive it. So am I going to just go angry, go fight that I don't have water when the faucet is there, but I am unwilling to put a cup right underneath of the faucet where that water can actually pour it down There's some things that we have to do, guys. Something you need not pray about, but something that is absolutely required of you in order for another action to take place. That's why we said you gotta submit under the environment by which you need something to be done in. You have to learn how to submit. That's just the way it is. That's the natural law. Submission. Prayers with no action, it's useless. Prayers work only when the other part of it is also working. If you just pray but there are no action, nothing is going to happen. So guys, I am literally asking you all, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. And I would wish that you get to understand the value of you speaking up. That example that I just gave you, the family, those few families that I know of who are rotting in jail for no reason, they're still there because some of these families out here have literally refused to speak up on their behalf, even though they know that they're innocent. The reason they say they don't want to speak up, they do not want to bother their own status. They don't want to be followed by the regime. It is none of their business. And plus, they did not get along with some of those families. Just imagine how selfish. Ruining an entire family because I didn't get along with you. Because me and you didn't see eye to eye. But my whole entire family gets to suffer for just that me and you's relationship. That is beyond selfish, guys. That is beyond selfish. Today, their families, as you can imagine, have completely separated. And there is something worse about you being in a predicament like that. So imagine if you have younger children, as they did, and your father is donated some crimes that he has not committed and is taken to jail. Absolutely fabrication. Your friends, they know that he's innocent. They are not willing to testify on his behalf because they did not see eye to eye, or they were just jealous, or whatever the case. Now the children, as innocent as they are, not only are going to lose a father, they're going to lose a mother. They're going to have a rough life as a consequence of you not speaking out. When for you, it was only a beef between you and their father. But you're not seeing family, generation, the ripple effects of what you are failing to do. So even today, I want to speak directly to every foreigner, every single foreigner who actually has witnessed what has happened in Rwanda. That's where I'm from, guys. You got to start with your own little cocoon before you go to others. You know, for the past 32 years, what has happened in Rwanda, it is not shared, it is not spoken in its entirety, as accurate as it is being withheld. You know, there is a huge lie that's been fabricated as to what has happened. And it has been foretold for the past 32 years until even those who are born today, they trust that that's what has happened. But you hold the truth in your own hands. And the rest of you have witnessed with your own two eyes. Why would you not do right by these millions of people? Not just in Rwanda, not just in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, not in Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi, and other families that became casualty of your silence, that became casualty of your inability and willingness to set the record straight. speaking to the governments that have these secret files, this classified information. Why won't you now release these documents? Why do you have to wait for a leader to die before you can release the so-called secret files? I mean, imagine how selfish we have to be. For me, to die when I have something to do with something wrong that has happened, but because I hold the keys to the government, not my government, by the way, I have maneuvered myself in a such way that I made sure that all my crimes are in a vault. And you are prohibited to open that vault. Not until I die. And then everybody else has immunity. Everybody else has immunity. I mean, what kind of injustice that is? Today you have presidents in these Western nations that are dying off before the atrocities that they have committed are actually now brought to light as documentaries. You have many people who have rotten in jails, attributed crimes that they have never committed because someone important, someone powerful was in power and could not allow the criminal file to be disposed. And we let it all happen. Such is what's happening today in Rwanda. You have criminals. You have criminals in black suits lingering around, both in and outside of Rwanda, who should be in jail, who should never be representing the people, who have committed the most heinous crimes that the history can record, but are walking free at the expense of millions innocent people who have been killed or in jail and don't have the means to actually free themselves and vindicate themselves. And to some of us, we've been privileged to have the information, to be witnesses, and we are still not willing to come forward and speak up because we are afraid to die. When all along, none of us can control your death time. Not even that powerful person who believes they can kill and give you life, because not one single human being can grant you life. It's impossible. Not even this president who said that they're giving you mercy. What type of mercy is it? They cannot give you mercy that it isn't already yours. If it's your time to go, with or without that mercy, you go. If it's time for you to be out, with or without that mercy, you'll be out. Until we get to learn that there are powers that aren't really powers, but are only made to look like powers by manipulations, we still are going to pay a whole lot of heavy fee for the things we are failing to do. So my brothers and sisters, I want to ask you, what is your role in this? I would hope that you actually can wisen up, that you can actually be yourself for the first time. Tell your story. Tell your family story. Your failure to do that, it is not just your personal business, but it's a corporate business. Your failure to set the record straight to that neighbor, to that individual, whether you like them or not, would actually go in circle and will come around to you in due time. You cannot live amongst thieves and you are innocent and not expect to be to literally be stolen by those thieves surrounding you. there's not amount of security you're going to have when you live surrounded by thieves. Thieves will figure out a way to come and steal from you. So the things that you do not want, a lot of the things you don't want to have a part with are unfortunately engulfed with your own personal life. Whether you feel like you're far away, they do not care. These things are so close, more than you even think. So testify, guys. Testify, write your own story, your own way with no apologies. Be bold enough that you can say what you have to say. Vindicate these families, whether they owe you anything or not. Live out of this world free, with an open, clear, with literally go without having to owe nobody. That's my goal right now. I want to leave this world empty. I want to leave this world debt-free. I don't want to hold a debt from you or anybody else. That's where I stand today. I am going to work as hard as I can to make sure that I live out on a clean bill with zero balance. What about you? How do you want to go out? That's what I hope. That's what I wish for you guys. And young people, those of you, especially if you were born here outside of your native homeland, I plead with you to take it upon yourselves to poke around and see what's been happening. You'll be shocked what your families is holding on. You'll be shocked what your pops, your moms, your gramps, your grandma has witnessed is holding on. As fragile as they can be, they almost departing and they are still silent. Don't let them leave without vindicating those families. Don't let them leave without you holding the precious cargo of information and preserve it for your own family. Maybe release it whenever you want to do it. But do not allow them to leave before they leave you that story, that history, so you can set the record straight in due time. That's what we're doing here today. I believe that it works. I believe that it's going to vindicate so many of us. And I believe that it is going to help us reclaim our true selves, our true identity, and take back the dominion of our own families, of our own communities, of our own nations, even the continent of Africa. And with that in mind, guys, I will end it there. I welcome each and every one of you's comments as it relates to this. And please, I literally want to ask of you to be bold enough to learn how to leave a legacy. There's so much that we must do and so little hand to do the work. Will you be a part of those of us willing to carry on our responsibility forward? Will you be one of those individuals? I hope you choose yes, because your failure to do that, it's going to add your own responsibility to my tab, to your children, your grandchildren, and those ahead of us. So none of us is going to go out like that. Our tab is going to be added to somebody else's tab. So please, let's share the load. Let's make it happen. We're here to get it done. Our season is now. Our time is now. So let's get it done. So feel free, guys, to send us our feedbacks on afridominion.com or www.afridominion.com. Send us an email at info@afridominion.com, and be sure to leave us a message, be it an SMS or give us a call on the regular landline. We will be more than happy to receive you. I am Freeman Singirankabo with Afri Dominion. It is a pleasure that we were able to actually come in and share with you. And please, take some time and testify. Testify on your behalf, on your family's behalf, and on behalf of those families, especially those lost families or perished families, because you will be paying forward. You will be paying forward, and you will be freeing so many people that you will never get to know. And with that in mind, guys, have yourself a super fantastic day. Until next Wednesday for the same program, different story. The rest of you will see you tomorrow. Have a great day, and thank you so much for tuning into our program. So long for now.